Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and folks, I found myself in Fantastic Four First Steps. Yes, after doing an exhaustive 1 hour and 23-minute breakdown for this film on release day, after seeing the film a few more times since then, I have found 44 more details that I missed the first time around, including an appearance from the Watcher, the Negative Zone, and yes, Erik Voss himself. Oh, screw that guy. Or it could be someone who shares my name. Hey, in this video, I'm going to break down what I missed, including myself, and if I didn't mention something here, I almost certainly covered it in last week's video. And by the way, I was lucky to attend San Diego Comic-Con last weekend, and you can hear me go deep into the crazy stuff I went through and my feelings about it all in the first episode of a new audio-only podcast series about imposter syndrome and social anxiety in the media industry called Who Invited This Nerd? That podcast episode is going to release Friday, August 1st on the Sneak Peek audio feed, free for everyone to listen to, but future episodes of Who Invited This Nerd will be only on our subscription service in our Underground, which is also where we release episodes of the Danger Room podcast, all of which you can access by clicking on the link in the description. And thank you for your support. All right, first new detail. 1. ANSA. So the ANSA patches that we see on the Fantastic Four's astronaut suits for the American National Space Agency, in addition to being a sign that we are in an alternate universe without NASA, is also a reference to ANSA in Planet of the Apes, where it stands for the same thing. And that movie is also a sci-fi story that features time dilation and beating up some damn dirty apes. 2. Reed Tech. I totally missed this before, but the name of Reed's consumer technology company is Reed Tech, similar to Stark Tech or Pym Tech, and it's why we see lowercase RT logos on Herbie's drives and the elevator for the Excelsior, on Franklin's car seat, on everything. 3. Kirby era suits. In the Prelude comic, we see that the first generation suits worn by the Fantastic Four feature the black trim from Jack Kirby's original design. The cast showed these off in a selfie photo, but we see them wearing these very briefly in the opening montage as they fight Giganto and arrest Mole Man. 4. Pan Am Building. So in my previous video, I spotted how the Pan Am Building is the same structure as the MetLife Building that was used as the place in Manhattan where Marvel's VFX artists placed Avengers Tower in Midtown. But what I failed to note is that in our real world history, before this building was the MetLife Building, it was the Pan Am Building. So there's kind of a double Easter egg on that one. Next, an Agatha cameo. When Johnny Storm saves the little girl played by Matt Shakman's daughter Maisie, the girl hugs her mom, and many of you think this mom looks like Catherine Hahn, Agatha Harkness. I'm pretty sure this is not Catherine Hahn, so I'm not even going to count it in my number count, but I wanted to mention it here so that you guys know that I saw it. I just disagree with you. 5. Harvey Elder union signs. When we interview Mole Man in the opening montage, we see various signs for vote no and other pro-labor union signage. In the Prelude comic, we learn that Sue's grandfather, John F. Storm, knew Harvey at State University, where Professor Storm counseled him on being a good union leader, and that's why Harvey and Sue have a good friendship. Yancey Street is the same set as the Deadpool set. This one was actually pointed out to me by our friend Brandon Davis at Phase Hero, confirmed in his interview with Matt Shakman. They used the same set at Pinewood Studios to form Yancey Street as a city street that we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine. And you can tell, it's the same street, just has different signage. But this also suggests to me that the Times Square set might have been the same outdoor structure that was used for Cassandra Nova's compound in Deadpool and Wolverine. And you'll notice that the sky is always overcast in all scenes shot on these stages. And that's because all these stages are covered by a canopy net to keep paparazzi drones from getting aerial footage while they're shooting these scenes. 7. Valentine's Day poster. After Sue announces her pregnancy, among the media gossip about the baby is a TV Mirror magazine that uses the Valentine's Day art by Ryan Meinderding from the very first February 2024 cast announcement poster. 8. Johnny Herbie head scratch. When Johnny meets with Reed in his lab, he gives a cute little pet to Herbie, and Herbie kind of purrs affectionately. Johnny calls us back when he delivers Franklin to the Baxter Building in the final battle. It's just a little gesture that I love. 9. Rachel Rosman. Natasha Lyonne's character, Rachel Rosman, her name may also be a nod to Jack Kirby's wife, who was nicknamed Roz. 10. Watcher cameo. Yes, an appearance by Uatu the Watcher was my big reach theory for this movie that I at first thought didn't come true, but it did. In the offices of Timely Comics, among the art on the walls is this page from Fantastic Four number 13 in 1961, featuring the Watcher intervening to impede the Red Ghost super apes on the moon. This is the first ever appearance of the Watcher in comics. New Rockstars confirmed with the producer on this film that this is indeed the Watcher, and that they darkened his skin on this page so that he would look more like Jeffrey Wright's Uatu the Watcher from What If and from all the other Marvel animated titles. This is actually a really big deal because the artists in the scene, based on Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, are implied to have come up with all of their stories by fictionalizing the history that they saw the Fantastic Four going through in this world. Like we see Giganto in their art, which they must have drawn after seeing the Fantastic Four Four fighting Giganto. So following that logic, it's possible that in the 828 universe, people also saw a live-action Uatu the Watcher intervening with Red Ghost and his super apes. Number 11, The Void. Shortly after the Timely Comics Easter egg, across the street, we see a billboard with a cat and the title, In the Eyes of the Void. Avengers Doomsday seems to be making the Void of the TVA into Battle World in Secret Wars and Doomsday, but we could also see this as a shout out to the Sentry's The Void in Thunderbolts. 12, Sue and Johnny's parents. So when Sue lies in bed with Reed before the launch, on her bedside is a photo of her and Johnny's parents, Franklin and Mary Storm, whom she references later in her speech. Number 13, LHS-275 victims. The planet that they find on their mission, LHS-275 in the binary star system, gets focused on by Reed in this frightening detail that I didn't touch on in my past video. Reed brings up a close-up of the planet to show people on the surface running for their lives, and I didn't catch this before. You can also hear those people screaming. It's horrifying. 14, Reed takes the controls. I missed this before, but when Galactus's world ship's red tractor beam takes hold of the Excelsior, Reed yells to Ben to cut the FTL engines to keep them all from blowing out, and Reed has to stretch up his arm as a backseat driver to crank the lever to power down the engines. It's not the biggest detail, but I think it's just a clever little application of his powers that they end up really needing in order to escape later. Number 15, why does the Excelsior have weapons? I didn't question this before, but the fact that the Excelsior even has weaponized beams that Johnny uses against Silver Surfer tells us that the Fantastic Four must have encountered interplanetary threats in the past, and that they probably fought aliens in space, like the Infant Terrible, maybe the Skrulls, maybe Ivan Krago if he did ever go to space, maybe even Annihilus. 16, Reed holds Sue during labor. So when Sue is in labor on the Excelsior, Reed tells Johnny to hold her down, but she uses her force field to shove her brother back. But as Reed tells Sue that they need gravity for her to push, he lovingly holds her, both to support her emotionally, but also to use his elasticity to lock her into place on that table so that the G-forces can do their work. 17, Watcher real cameo? So I might be crazy on this one, but after the press conference, we cut back out to space to see Galactus's world ship to check in with Galactus and Shalabal. But in the exterior shot of the ship moving away from us, we see something in the lower right corner. And I gotta say, this kind of looks like the very round head of the Watcher watching the ship pass him. I understand it's probably a lens flare, but the movement of it, the color, even the shading kind of just looks like the bulbous head of Watchers as they appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. 18, Reed doesn't dream. So when Reed says my favorite line of the movie, how he doesn't dream, how he has to invite the worst possible outcome into his head, another way to read that line is, since Multiverse of Madness established that all dreaming in the MCU is us peering into the lives of our multiversal variant selves, that this 828 Reed has no such metaphysical connection with his variants. He's cut off, and so that would make him less aware of multiversal threats that are out there. 19, teleport to a new universe? When Reed explains to the TV audience his plan to teleport the Earth, on his Fantastic Science chalkboard is a drawing of a wormhole with the label Different Universes. So even though his plan is to teleport within the same universe, it looks like he was speculating that the teleportation might take them or take Galactus to an entirely different universe. And who knows, that might have been what happened to Galactus. This video that you're watching right now was created using Riverside. Not only that, but every single video we published here on New Rockstars for years was also made with Riverside. You know why that is? Because when you're making this much content, you don't have time to mess around with tools that are good enough. You need professional quality recording and editing software. That's Riverside. Riverside is the easiest way for you to record, edit, and share professional grade video content and podcasts from anywhere in the world. There's a couple of features that we specifically like. The main one is that Riverside records your video locally with up to 4K resolution. Even if your internet connection is choppy, your recording isn't. Plus, Riverside uploads your audio and video tracks separately to the cloud while you record. It's great for peace of mind, but it also means that once you're done recording, your files are ready for you to work on immediately. Riverside also takes advantage of cutting-edge AI to make your life easier. With an AI producer that cleans up your ums and uhs, video dub that can flawlessly replicate your voice for pickups, and a magic clips tool that can pop out your best clips for easy sharing on social media. Riverside makes our jobs so much easier. I can't count the number of times the local backups have saved us from losing time on big projects. Not to mention how much we absolutely relied on it during COVID. We can't recommend it enough. If you create video or audio content, click the link in the description, use code Rockstars, and get 1 free month of Riverside Pro today. 20, Wakanda? In the various maps we see of bridges around the world, one of them is definitely in the part of Eastern Africa, exactly where Wakanda is. We're pretty sure we are going gonna get a multiversal Wakanda and a variant T'Challa in Doomsday or Secret Wars. 21. German read tech. At one point we see the city of Berlin from the Spree River, and we see a sign for Schwebe Grill, which is German for hover grill, and we see a couple in Lederhosen. There's also a German version of the Velojet in the upper right. I just love how Reed's tech has gone global. Here we go. Number 22. Voss. Here I am, folks. On Johnny's translation notes of the Zenlaw language, we see his phonetic phrasing, which includes Brie, Voss, Tessa, which he says translates to celebrate you always. Oh, thank you, Fantastic Four. I celebrate you always. Now, it is possible that this could actually be a nod to Brett Voss, the ADR mixer who works on most Marvel titles. No relation to me. Like, you could see the phonetic phrasing as a shout out to the ADR work he does with actors on these productions, but I am choosing to see this as a shout out to the kind of work I do at New Rockstars, which often includes translating fictional languages just like Johnny does in this movie, whether it be Orbesh, Cree, Skrullos, or Wakandan. 23. East Berlin, West Berlin. On the list of world cities with bridges, we see separate listings for West Berlin and East Berlin, which tells us that even in this alternate 1965, World War II ended with a Cold War between the USSR and the NATO powers that separated the city of Berlin into two sides. 24. USSR. Similarly on this list, Moscow is listed as being in the USSR, since this is 1965. When it was not Russia, it was the Soviet Union. Now, while the Future Foundation has achieved world peace, there's still enough of a tension between the Soviet Union and the United States to split Berlin. Also on this list, number 25, Stockholm, offline. One of the world cities is Stockholm, Sweden, and it's listed as offline, which I am choosing to interpret as a reference to the Sweden-based torrent site of Pirate Bay, often having different versions of its site routed through servers in different countries, many of them being offline. If you know, you know. 26, Berlin tobacco sign. When the Silver Surfer blows up the Berlin Bridge, we see a Loser and Wolf sign, which is a big German tobacco company. 27, December decor. When Ben visits Yancey Street to check in on Rachel, we see blue banners across the street for Hanukkah, which would put this movie's final battle in December of 1965. 28, cinema support. After the Fantastic Four evacuate the city, all of the movie theater marquees read things like "Good luck, Fantastic Four," and "We stand together," which kind of feels like a meta nod to the partnership that these movie studios need to have with the film exhibitors to keep this industry alive. Number 29, decoy bassinet. I really love this small detail. When the Fantastic Four first set up their trap for Galactus, with baby Franklin in the bassinet on the bridge platform, in the background of that shot, you can see the decoy bassinet that they plan to swap in place for Galactus to target instead. Number 30, Galactus versus Herbie. When Galactus smashes his hand in to grab Franklin from the Baxter building, I was a bit worried about Herbie. Like, did he get crushed? Did they have to rebuild him in the final act? Is that final robot in the final scene just a different one? No. If you look very closely at that moment, Galactus's middle finger knocks Herbie out of the way. So Herbie did not get crushed. He did not need to be rebuilt for the final scene. Number 31, Sue hears Franklin first. So this is a very subtle detail, but after Galactus grabs Franklin and prepares to leave with Franklin, the baby starts crying. Now, all of the four at this point are knocked out and dazed. Many of them probably aren't even sure what happened, but Sue, from the wreckage of the Fantastic car, is the first to wake up to the sound of her son crying so that she can use her force field powers to stop Galactus in time. I don't think Reed, Johnny, or Ben even know that Galactus has Franklin until they first see Sue trying to stop Galactus, and then she turns and tells her husband, "Save your son." And then he looks up and he's like, "Oh shit." So, like many moms of newborns, they're just a little more sensitive to the sound of their baby crying, the first to wake up at night to go to the baby. And I just like the implication that Franklin might be getting his powers more from Sue than he gets from Reed, and might have emitted a kind of cosmic cry to his mother in particular, because instinctively, on some level, this baby just feels that mama is going to be able to hold this thing back more than daddy will. Number 32, Sue's full body powers. I actually learned this from the Marvel Studios podcast, but the choreographer who worked with Vanessa Kirby talked about how they designed her movements to make it clear that Sue's force field against Galactus was coming from her entire body, her core, not just her hands. And so they had the actress adopt a wide set pose and a lean back that might remind you of Wanda Maximoff in past MCU moments. Matt Shackman said that Sue and Wanda have comparable power sets. 33, Galactus sees Silver Surfer. In the final moment before Silver Surfer smashes into Galactus to knock him back through the portal, look closely and you'll see that the power cosmic in Galactus's eyes flickers out and he sees her with his normal eyes, which by then is of course too late. He was so focused using his power cosmic to scan around looking for threats that he failed to see the traitorous threat right under his nose. Number 34, Galactus is hit. When Silver Surfer strikes Galactus, she pushes him back even further back into the portal so that he wouldn't be right there next to the portal to reach back through it again. 35, Negative Zone. Backstage at Ted Gilbert, they run past a movie poster called The Shadow Realm, which I think might be a nod to the Void or to the negative zone of the Fantastic Four. Number 36, Gladiator 2 reference. In addition to Pedro Pascal's work in The Last of Us getting referenced in the Attack of the Fungi sign, a group of Roman soldiers backstage could be a nod to his and Joseph Quinn's recent film Gladiator 2. Number 37, celebrating 5 years. Outside we can see Ted Gilbert's sign has been updated to show it's now 1 year after the events of the opening montage when they were celebrating 4 years of the Fantastic Four. Considering that 1 year included 9 months of Sue's pregnancy, we're now a few months into Franklin's life and he would be about 4.5 or 5 years old in the post-credit scene 4 years after that. 38, Miklo the Gorilla. We saw Reed fighting Piotr the Orangutan in the opening montage, but in the closing credits by Perception, we see a shot of Miklo the Gorilla, another one of Red Ghost's super apes, tugging at Reed's cheek, stretching it. We also see Reed throwing Miklo the Gorilla into the sky on Pedro Pascal's title card. 39, Galactus Memorial. On Ralph Ineson's title card, we see the commemorative disc from Times Square that used to show the Four's battle with Giganto that's now been updated to commemorate their defeat of Galactus. 40, Ben finally shaves. Ben finally shaved his rock beard on the set of Ted Gilbert. And our last three, 41 through 44, post-credit scene, more cameos. I'll close out with a handful of additional details I spotted in the final end credit scene of the Fantastic Four cartoon show. We see a sign for King's Deli, and then behind Ben in a shot, we also see some graffiti by the Yancey Street Gang. When Reed shrinks Claw, there is a portal opening behind him that's labeled 42, and 42 is kind of a universal number referenced in a lot of ways. In this lab, we also see an alien insect in a jar, which I think might be part of the swarm of Annihilus based on its colors. And then in that shot of Impossible Toys and Arcade, we see the character Arcade's signature bow tie. So there you go, 44, maybe even a couple over. Comment down below with your thoughts, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Bro, who supports us at the executive producer level. Follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to all the channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.